Example 2. Compare and order absolute values. Write the real numbers in order from least to greatest. So we're going to take these numbers here and we're going to order them from the smallest number up to the biggest number. The first thing we're going to do is evaluate each number and express it in decimal form. Alright, so our first number is the absolute value of negative 6.5. So remember, the absolute value of any number has to be positive, so the absolute value of negative 6.5 is 6.5. Okay, 5 is already evaluated. The absolute value of 4.75 is positive 4.75. And then we have negative 3.4. Okay, now the absolute value of negative 12 over 5 is the same as the absolute value of negative 2.4. And so the absolute value of negative 2.4 is positive 2.4. And then we have the absolute value of negative 0.5. So remember, we have to come up with a positive number, so 0.1. And then we have negative 0.01. And then the absolute value of negative 2.5 is the same as the absolute value of negative 2.5. And so the absolute value of negative 2.5 is 2.5. Okay, so we want to order them now from the least number to the greatest. Okay, so the smallest number here is negative 3.4. So we put that first. And then the next number is negative 0.01, right, because it's closer to 0 than negative 3.4 is. And then 0.1, and then 2.4, and then 2.5, and then 4.75, 5, and 6.5. So now we want to show the original numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay, so negative 3.4 was already negative 3.4, and negative 0.01 was already negative 0.01. The 0.1 we got from the absolute value of negative 0.1, so that's what we're going to put here. So absolute value of negative 0.1. And then our next number is 2.4, which we got from the absolute value of negative 12 over 5. So we'll put that next. And then our next number is 2.5, which we got from the absolute value of negative 2.5. And then the 4.75 came from the absolute value of 4.75. And then the number 5 is next. And then the 6.5 came from the absolute value of negative 6.5. Okay, so the next question is for you to work out. And so put pause on and try to do it on your own. Okay, so the answer for this, well, I guess I'll go through the solution with you. You should have 3.5, negative 2, 5.75, 1.05, 3.25, 0.5, negative 1.25, and 3.3 repeating. Okay, so order it from least to greatest, so negative 2, negative 1.25, 0.5, 1.05, 3.25, 3.3 repeating, 3.5, and 5.75. Okay, and the original numbers are negative 2, negative 1.25, absolute value of negative 0.5, 1.05, absolute value of negative 13 over 4, then the absolute value of negative 3 1/3, and then 13, oh no, sorry, absolute value of 3.5, and then the absolute value of negative 5.75. Okay, so now we're going to evaluate absolute value expressions. So absolute value symbols should be treated in the same manner as brackets. Okay, evaluate the absolute value of a numerical expression by first applying the order of operations inside the absolute value symbol and then taking the absolute value of the result. Okay, so let's evaluate the following. We have on the first question the absolute value of 4 minus the absolute value of negative 6. Okay, so think of these as brackets, even though they're your absolute value symbol. You're going to evaluate there first. Okay, so the absolute value of 4 is 4 minus the absolute value of negative 6 is positive 6. So you can write 6 and then 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Okay, on B, think of this as brackets. All right, and then you're going to go 5 minus 3. And you're going to go absolute value, and 2 minus 7 is negative 5 absolute value. Okay, so we're first going to finish what's inside the bracket, and then we will work with that now. Okay, so now what we want to do is calculate the absolute value of negative 5. Okay, so that will be 5 minus, and then remember, when there's no sign between a number and a bracket, that means multiplication. So we're going to go 5 minus 3 times 5, because the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. And now we will complete the question. We'll go 5 and then minus 3 times 5 is minus 15. And then 5 minus 15 is negative 10. Okay, now the next question, the whole thing is inside the absolute value symbol. So you're going to evaluate everything inside first. Okay, so do your orders of operations, and then the last step you will be calculating the absolute value of the number. Okay, so we're going to go negative 2, and then we have 5 minus 7 in a bracket there, and 5 minus 7 is negative 2. There's a square on the outside, plus 6. Okay, and then absolute value, you've got negative 2 times, okay, negative 2 squared is 4, plus 6, absolute value sign, then absolute value sign, negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, plus 6, absolute value symbol, and then the absolute value of negative 2, because negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2, and then the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. Okay, so you're going to apply your order of operations inside the bracket. Okay, now on your next page you'll have 3 questions to try on your own, so put the pause button on and work them out. Alright, so on the first question, absolute value of negative 4 is 4, minus the absolute value of negative 3 is 3, 4 minus 3 is 1. On the next question, you're going to simplify what's inside your absolute value brackets first. So you're going to have the absolute value, and then negative 12 plus 8 is negative 4. And so the absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. Okay, so remember, the absolute value of a negative number is always positive. Okay, and on this one here, you're going to evaluate everything inside the bracket first and work out the absolute value at the end. So use your order of operations inside the bracket. So 12 times negative 3 is negative 36. And then plus 5 squared is 25. So evaluate that. Negative 36 plus 25 is negative 11. So now you're looking for the absolute value of negative 11, which is 11.